Hello, and welcome to A Wealthy Life. This podcast is designed to provoke your thoughts, provide practical exercises and ideas, and equally to challenge your beliefs, I hope, to occasionally point towards the way that you can make your money work harder, the way that you can control your finances better. And of course, it all starts with greater clarity. And one of those questions about clarity is to actually ask the question, what do you want for your family? What do you want for your children or maybe your grandchildren? And if you don't have children or plan to have children, then what do you want for yourself? Do you know the life that you want to live? And have you got a vision in your head, whether you've shared it with your children or not, about what you want for them? And I think, speaking as a parent, one of the things I think we can all unite on wanting for our children is for them to be happy and healthy. Of course, that goes without saying. But maybe you also have words around wanting them to be successful or wanting them to be wealthy, or maybe you just want them to be rich. And if you think back to episode 39 last week, where I asked you the question, what did your parents teach you? Or rather, I asked you the question, what did you learn from your parents? This is very relevant as a foundation to this podcast, because based on what you learned from your parents, it will influence the beliefs and the values you have now, which will have shaped your life. But it could also be shaping the life that you want your children to have. And there will be a point, oh goodness, I'd like to think it was up until they were 18, but those were the days. I mean, if you're lucky, it'll be up until they're 10 these days, where you could shape their lives, that you could hold this vision of what you wanted for them, and through the decisions you made, steer them along a path that in your best heart you thought was best for them. And the reason this links back to last week's podcast is because if you're unconsciously holding values that have been passed down the generation or influenced through politics, or even societal situations and the environment that you were in at the time, history, if you like, and you're unaware of that, you could be passing those on unconsciously to your children through the decisions that you're making. And let me use this almost controversial example at the moment. Let's say you want your children to do well and to be successful. Maybe you want them to have a profession, in inverted commas. So you want them to be a doctor or an accountant. Nobody seems to want their children to be scientists anymore, but you want them to have a profession. But what you're not maybe thinking about is the way the world's moved on, and that being a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant aren't the only professions that are out there. They aren't the only respected careers to have moving forward. So that's one thing. But then, because of that belief that those are the only important jobs and those are the only people that are successful or rich or wealthy, you actually decide to send your children to a private school. And that's absolutely fine within your choice. But that has a financial implication for you. It may be something you can easily afford. It may be something that you rather cleverly planned in, but equally it could be something that is putting a bit of a financial burden on you. It could be that actually it's not so much about the profession you want your children to have, but a belief that the school system that is offered by the government will not enable your child to succeed, and therefore you have to go this route. Now, I'm not casting any judgment on that decision. That's all down to you as a parent. You know best for your child. In brackets, do you? Have you checked? Is it really your thought, and is it really best for your child? Close bracket. But by sending your child to a private school, you are very definitely steering them on a path that will be different than if they stayed in the regular state school. And if that decision is well thought out and right for the child and right for you financially and works out, and at the end of it, they get a job that they are happy with, perfect. I'm not sure, and I'll admit to having not done this research, that private education is turning out environmental engineers and environmental scientists, the people that are going to work out how to overcome climate change, the people who are working out the next renewable energy source or how to tap into the renewable energy sources that we have now in a way that is cost effective when we try and create the product at the far end. Where are the people coming out of private education that are going to rethink our health service in a way that makes it more suitable for an ever aging population? I don't know the answers to that, but I had a lot of time during lockdown to work out all the questions that we weren't answering, and then work out that we do not seem to be creating an education system that is going to produce the people that are going to come up with the answers. So understanding what you want for your children, for your grandchildren, or for yourself is the first point of awareness. Understanding where those thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and values may have come from, the topic of the last podcast, and the exercise that was there, is vital to ensuring that it is appropriate. But then also still thinking about any of the decisions, not necessarily sending them to a private school, but whatever else you are doing for your children, is that the path that is going to enable them to fulfill their skills? And just the one story for you here. When I was a university lecturer, some 11 years in a row, I would work very closely with a group of some 400 students that entered university to go on a computing degree, among the other classes that I taught. And these students have a profound effect on me. I remember many of them, and there's a few that I've met along the way. And I remember very clearly speaking to one young girl in tears because what she wanted to do is be a poet. And she shared with me this book of poems. And I'm no connoisseur and expert at poetry, but my goodness, her words were moving. They were beautiful. The book was illustrated as she had sort of doodled and drawn along with her words. But her parents did not value poetry or becoming a poet or the thought that being a poet could be a career. And what they thought was of value was her getting a computing degree. And if you know anything about how the mind works, yes, there's degrees of creativity, but this was not a match for this young girl. And she was doing what her parents wanted, but she was standing in a corridor in tears with me. And there's no solution. There was no solution. How could I say to her, oh no, give up your degree, that's not my place, and certainly wouldn't have got me any credit with the university to kick off a student. And all I could do was suggest that she continued her poetry, continued the degree, and maybe at some point when she comes out the other end, she would find a way that she could do both, or that the job that she got as a computing person would pay for her to have time to write her poetry and maybe even publish her poems. So this idea of what do you want for your family, this idea of, in a way, imposing our beliefs on other people and shaping their lives, particularly when it comes to children, it's no small matter. It's absolutely crucial. And if I get more personal with my family life, I have always wanted to travel. And I know exactly where that's come from. My father was Italian my whole childhood. every summer in July, we piled into a car and we travelled from London. In the days before there was the M25, because I'm so old, we went across country down to the coast and we got on a ferry and we went to the other side and we drove all the way through Europe. And it used to take us roughly 2 days. We would leave on a Saturday evening. Depending on the route we take, we either arrived Sunday night or arrived on Monday. And there are plenty of very positive memories about that journey. There are wonderful memories to do with those holidays, but there was a passion for exploring. It was so rare that people did that sort of traveling, that degree of traveling. If people had holidays, it would have mostly, bearing in mind how old I am, say in the late 60s, early 70s, even into the 70s, that most people would have gone somewhere in the UK on holiday, or at best gone just over to France, or maybe even the whole way over to Spain. I experienced France, had formed my opinions of that country and the language and the food. Belgium, how we felt about that. Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Italy, Yugoslavia, a vast array of countries that we spent a lot of time in over that period exploring those places. And yes, we did take a flying holiday to Spain, and in the end we did start to fly to other places, but we drove in order that we could take so much stuff with us, because my father was going to Italy to see his sister. As soon as I had the capability and, if you like, my own budget, the first thing I did was work at the airport and start traveling with the airport. Some disastrous tales I'll tell you about one time about becoming a courier for a courier company close to the airport and traveling around Algiers or Algeria and Tunis and Morocco, and not seeing a minute of it, and spending an awful night in an unbuilt, squatting, I think I would have actually better termed it as, squatting in an unbuilt, unfinished block of flats somewhere in Algeria, lit only by a candle in the bottle, and somehow still managing to get home alive, but several days late, much to the shock of my father. And without the aid of mobile phones and the internet, he just knew we were missing, or I was missing for 2 days somewhere in North Africa. So yes, I've done some strange traveling, but I know where my passion comes from. And so all my adult life, all I've wanted to do is explore the world. And so that's why, although we did have one flat that we bought in Estonia, I've never been someone who wants to buy a holiday home in a foreign country. I don't want to just stay in one place. So I can see where that belief came from and where that value came from. I don't value owning a holiday home, and I know how that comes because I want to explore. And I know why I've had the holidays and traveled most of the continents of the world, except obviously the Arctic. What I'm getting to here is that I then passed that through experience rather than through a desire to shape their lives. Through my experience, I've passed that love of traveling on to my children. At the age of 7 and 9, we went and spent a month in South Africa. And I remember leaving that holiday with my daughter, who previously had wanted to be a hairdresser, now deciding that she wants to be a vet because of her experiences meeting the elephants and the rhinoceros. She didn't go on to do that because that was never really her purpose or her passion, but opening them up to experiences opens them up to, I don't know, more opportunities, if you like, more opportunities to create their own values and belief systems, to check out the values and beliefs that you've been passing on to them against their experiences. And now this is passed on to our granddaughter and grandson. My granddaughter has just come back from her 5th holiday in Disney. She's only 5, and she's just had a 6th birthday, and she's had 5 trips to Disney in her life. And that's because her father also has a passion about Disney. And alongside going to Disney, she's also been to Egypt twice, to Turkey, and had plenty of long weekends in other countries. that is going to shape her experience of the world. It's going to shape her values and beliefs. It's going to shape maybe the things that she becomes passionate about. My passion, of course, is to create and teach her about the 5 principles of a wealthy life, so she can create the life she wants, spend her time doing what she loves with those that matter to her most. But at the same time, imposing my beliefs and my values on her is dangerous if it contradicts the way that she wants her life to go. So understanding what you learned from your parents is also really important in enabling you to understand what you might be teaching your children. Now, this could be very direct and very clear and very, I don't know, I can't think of the word, or it could be more hidden. You know, is it overt? There you go. Struggling for the words. Is it overt? Are you overtly teaching them, or is it covert through the experiences that you create for them? I mean, are you sitting down helping them with their homework? Have you engaged a maths tutor or an English tutor or a science tutor? Or are you leaving the education in inverted commas to the school and you're providing extra curricular experiences for them, whether that's at sports clubs or scouts or anything else that's going on? How are you influencing the knowledge and the beliefs of your children with the things that you share with them? What are you teaching your children? And what you're teaching your children, does that tie in with what you want for them? So it could be that what you want for your children is for them to be successful because of beliefs that you have, harping back to that podcast from last week. You're not demonstrating successful thinking or being successful yourself. And so on the one hand, you're saying, oh, you need to go be a doctor or an accountant or a lawyer. But what you're doing is not demonstrating to them the skills, the values, the beliefs, the opportunities that they need to experience in order to follow that path. And maybe they don't want that, because then they look at you and maybe you're happy not being a doctor or a lawyer and they want to be like you. There will be a lot of children out there that want to emulate their parents. There'll equally be children that are vehemently opposed to emulating parents, and then there'll be those that are wandering around in the middle. Can you do better for your children? Can you pick up where school is failing? Can you pick up on the fact that school doesn't teach them that basically money is the same as maths and maths is the same as money? And for example, the simple task of purchasing anything, any purchasing decision at all, whether it's shopping for food or buying a holiday or investing in a car or a house, is simply a maths exercise, not one to be feared, but one to be embraced. Can you help your children recognize opportunities to succeed, opportunities to create more money for themselves, opportunities to help others? Can you help them understand how business and the economy works? Can you even explain the news to them? I mean, goodness, half the time I can't explain the news to myself. So that may actually be a task too far. But what I'm saying here is, it's all well and good having this vision of how you want your child's life to turn out over and above the general term of being happy and healthy, if you do. But if you don't support it in a way that mixes the beliefs that you're sharing with your child, positive beliefs that you're sharing with your child or your children or your family in general, with their personality traits and opportunities that are open to them, and picking up where school may not be serving them, then any wish that you have might be forcing them down a very narrow tube. You're basically putting a square peg in a round hole, and vice versa. If you want your children to be successful, do you give them pocket money, but have they got a bank account? Do you pay the pocket money into a bank account and then make them withdraw money from a total amount and see that total amount goes down when they spend something, but actually that total amount can increase when you pay into it? Are you explaining the value of money? I mean, I remember when we first got mobile phones, and in part, my lack of knowledge about how the mobile phone worked, but goodness, the children running up the classic £700 phone bill with apps and downloads and everything like that. Have you explained how, yes, all right, here's a phone for you, but every time you click on this stuff, or if they're playing games and there's this pretend money, but actually the pretend money is linked to your credit card and is actually drawing down real money to play with pretend money in a pretend game on a phone. Are you enabling them to have the responsibility for themselves and for their futures? And in a sense, it's our responsibility to share what we know as soon as possible as we acquire that information, rather than waiting. And I suppose if your children are 2 and 4, then you're going to be tailoring this conversation that you have with them to a level where a 2 and a 4-year-old can understand. But if your child is 8, 9, 10, 11, there's no reason why they shouldn't understand money. My children knew when my marriage broke up that I counted my money every night and I worked it out and I wrote it down on a piece of paper, and they looked at that. But they also thought that we were rich because we went away on holiday. And the reason we went away on holiday is because I wrote down my money every day and counted it and looked at what I'd spent and looked at what I had left and made sure that I had enough moving forward. So this whole conversation is really about, what do you want for your children, for your family, and if that's not relevant to you, what do you want for yourself? And I want to pick up on the financial beliefs questionnaire from last week. And there were only about 3 questions that I would have answered yes to. And these are questions that I think children, your children, all children really need to understand. And that's one of these questions is setting a goal and having clarity, as I would call it, is absolutely vital. Understanding how much money is enough to cover your basics and how much money is more than enough and much more than enough. What does a wealthy life look like? What does a wealthy life look and feel like to either you, your child, your teenager? And then from that, setting this goal. So having the clarity about the life you want and setting a goal, that's actually one thing that I think is crucial for children. And have you got that opportunity to sit down with your children during the school holidays and ask them what do they want, and then help them create a plan to get what they want, whether it's something financial, that's something they want to buy, something they want to experience. And another question that I would have answered yes to as part of the questionnaire is, you might lose friends. I know that there are people in my life totally not interested in what I do for a living. They never ask me. They ignore me if I bring up the topic. And yeah, all right, I know I can go on a bit about property investing and everything else. But friends share values as well. And it might be that the friends that I still have, I share values with, but we don't share an interest in the detail of what I'm doing. And then there are other people that I share values with, because I think it's very difficult to actually be friends with someone if you don't have some form of common ground. There are friends that I do share values with, and they may not match exactly, but we are friends and we have other things in common as well. Other people will maybe be, I don't know if you can say it this way around, positively negative, if that makes sense, about what you do, what you believe. And it could be that you started off very good friends, and as you've got older, you have parted company. And now that's the position you're in, that you have to let some friends grow as you develop, as you move on, as your understanding about what matters to you in life becomes clearer, as you make more and more of your unconscious conscious, then all of a sudden we're off down that line, and some of those friends will part company with you. And then the other one is about lazy. There's a question there about being too lazy to make money. Lazy is such a negative word, and really an evocative word. But actually, for me, my goal is to work not hard, but smart. So if your goal is to work smarter and to maybe only work a 3-day week, does that make you lazy because you want to have 4 days a week off? So I work a 3-day week. Am I lazy because I only work 3 days a week? Or do I work smart most of the time, work smart in the 3 days that I have, so that I can have the long weekends or take the time off? And helping your children to understand words and how they can have a negative meaning, but actually, if you dig it into it, it's about something completely different. So that sentence is, I'm too lazy to be wealthy, or I'm too lazy to ever make money, can actually be interpreted in a completely different way if you then take out the evocative word lazy and ask the question, can I make money by working 3 days a week rather than working 5 days a week? And if you then add in the word that I use, enough, about the baseline, and more than enough about the baseline and the pleasures, could I earn more than enough money for the life that I want to live in 3 days a week and have 4 days a week off to enjoy that life? The answer is absolutely yes. So explaining to your children maybe that where they put their attention is where they'll get their results. For example, athletes train and they win. Investors invest and they focus on making money for a purpose. But study not for the sake of a qualification, but study with that bigger goal in mind. Put your attention where you are going to find the results follow from that point. So if you haven't listened to the last episode, I've mentioned it enough times that hopefully you'll go back and listen to it and download that financial belief questionnaire and do it for yourself, with your partner and with your family. If you have done it, it's been a week now. Maybe go back and look at the yes/no answers that you gave and see if any more insights come to you about where those beliefs and thoughts have come from. My name is Vicky Wushay, and this is a Wealthy Life podcast. And I'm going to ask you the gory question next week. Are you prepared to die? It's not as bad as it sounds, but I do like to have a bit of fun with the titles. I want to help you gain a greater understanding of where your thoughts come from, so you can create the life you want, and by creating the life you want, make better decisions. Maybe some of those decisions are about how you invest and move forward with your life. Maybe some of those decisions are about how you spend your money or don't spend your money. Some of those decisions might be about understanding the resources that you've got and how you can use them better. It might even be that you've moved through all of this, and by understanding where your beliefs come from, you can create a wealthy life that enables you to have and do and be more philanthropic, create that legacy that you want to leave in the world, to support your family in the way that best supports them to achieve what they want to achieve. So I hope I provided insights and thought-provoking moments for you here. Do please get in touch. Please send me a message. If there's anything that you would like to discuss, you can send me an email, we can make a call, or I can just answer you in the email if that's what you prefer. As I said, my name's Vicky Wushay, and I hope that I've put a little bit more whoosh into your life through this last half an hour. Thank you very much for listening, and I will speak to you next week.